this was about as bizarre and as easy as it gets.
So the number for me was a number that would allow me to never have to work again.
I feel like we got top.
I went from a sale of, $500,000 to in debt.
$192 million.
This is Built to Sell Radio with your host, John Warlow.
So the pandemic has clearly affected the value of businesses big and small. But there's a way you can recapture a lot of that value if you think about your business through the lens of what an acquirer will care about. As we grow our companies, oftentimes they become this sort of spaghetti ball of different products and services, but acquirers only care about what they could not replicate, what it would be difficult for them to redo or rebuild. And therefore, they're going to place a high priority on the products and services that you sell, which they deem to be truly differentiated. And that's why looking at your business through the lens of an acquirer can really be helpful in these situations where you're trying to rebuild. We can help you do it. Just go to valuebuilder.com. You can take a questionnaire that will help you look at your business through the lens of an acquirer. We can also connect with you with one of our certified value builders who can be a sounding board for you as you go through this process. Best of luck with the rebuild, the restart. Please go to valuebuilder.com to check out the resources there. Don't you love it when the good guys and gals win? My next guest is a great example of that. Her name is Gabbys Isturiz, and she started a company, very simple business, timekeeping for lawyers. Simple for me to say. Let's let Gabby disabuse me of that fact. But in this episode, Gabby talks about the growth of her business, the key performance metrics that she looked at that made her business so successful. She ultimately viewed it to be worth between 5 and 7 times top line revenue. She got 12 acquisition offers. What I loved about this interview was how she deftly played one acquisition offer off the next. She ultimately had 12 offers. She brought it down to a list of 4 and got one acquisition offer up by 40%, as she'll describe in this episode. Lots of really interesting tidbits for you as an aspiring value builder. Listen for the importance of the niche that she focused on and how she got a defendable market position, how important growth in her financials were in her acquisition. And it's just recurring revenue is such an important sort of secret sauce to the entire valuation algorithm. It was a pleasure to talk to Gabby. Here to tell you her story is Gabbys Isturiz. Gabbys Isturiz, welcome to Built to Sell Radio.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell me about this company, Timekeep. What did you guys do?
Yeah, the company name was Bellefield, and
the product name was
Timekeep, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So Bellefield was a legal technology company, which was solely focused on helping lawyers to capture more time, yes, and also we made sure that the time that they capture was in compliance with what the clients wanted and also what the clients were willing to pay.
Right. So this was an application. If I had an iPhone or an Android device, I could track my time I was working for a client on my device, and it would somehow get pushed up to the cloud.
Exactly. Everywhere, pretty much. So they could have, didn't matter where they were in the world, right? With any device, any computer, they were able to capture their time and make sure that that time was a time that was going to be paid by the client.
I know there's a lot of timekeeping apps out there. How was yours different or tailored for lawyers?
Yeah, there are a number of them. I think what set us apart, it was our business model and value proposition, and we were the first SaaS timekeeping and compliance platform in the legal industry.
So, okay, but I think there are lots of other timekeeping apps out there. I get what I'm hearing you say is the compliance piece was important. Is that right?
Yeah, and the other, in legal, Most of the law firms, they already using some sort of billing system, timekeeping system. What set us apart, it's this was a layer that will sit on top of their practice management system, or call it ERP, that will integrate with any system that the law firm had. So we integrated with 32 legal ERPs. So the convenience for the law firm was basically the ability to enter time from a mobile device anywhere they were, in
I
real
see.
time connected with their ERP system.
I see. Because a lot of their work is done when they're in the car, the coffee shop, on the elevator. Like they want to capture that time. It's not always sitting at their desk where they have access to their ERP system.
Correct. I mean, think a little bit of like Concur, right? So you will use Concur for expenses, right?
I don't
And
know Concur. What is that Concur?
oh, Concur is one of the largest expense tracking systems,
Okay.
and kind of like a similar. Our goal was to become the Concur of time, right? But it's very specialized. So we added engagement, we added gamification, a lot of metrics and KPI to not only helping them to capture more time, but also help them to capture more time, through better behavior.
Got it. Yeah, because anyone who bills by the hour, the bane of that manager's existing is getting people to fill out their timesheets. It's always a big
And it's painful, right? And there is a lot of revenue to be leaked.
Lost. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How important was, and let me ask you a different question. You had this idea of becoming the Concur of the timekeeping space. Is that right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Why did you come up with that analogy, and how did you use an analogy to communicate your vision in your company?
That analogy helped us really well, and we use Concur because pretty much anybody in professional services, and even investors that cater to the professional services industry and technology, they're pretty familiar with Concur. So it was kind of like the perfect analogy, because professional services, professionals, they track time, right, and they track expenses. So there was no in the market for legal something as simple and sleek as Concur for entering time. And again, I mean, we became the leader in timekeeping for legal.
Got it. And so, how did you finance the business? What was your journey?
Yes, that's a very good question. We started out in 2012, and we bootstrapped the company. We didn't have any outside investment, and we were lucky enough to have another liquidity event years prior, from our first company, which was also in legal. It was eBilling Hub, and we sold that company to Thomson Reuters. So we were pretty lucky to have some ability to fund the new venture. But I mean, we bootstrapped. We started out to be 3, and in 2012 and in 2019 we were over 45 people.
Wow.
1 year later we were already profitable, and we were growing 40-50% year over year.
Wow, fantastic. Who's the we? The three of you? Were you all co-founders together, or who funded the first initial?
Yes, it was. We started out 2 of co-founders, myself and my Daniel Garcia, my other business partner, and then we had a third business partner to join us. So a little bit like a few months later. But yeah, so we studied out the 3 co-founders. My expertise was a little bit more in the running and building companies, operations, finance. one of my co-founders, Daniel Garcia, his expertise was building SaaS platforms, which we already did successfully in the e-billing hub. And then we had another partner, John Kunz, that started doing the sales and the business development. So we had a pretty good set of skills together. So that's why we didn't have to go and raise money.
Got it. And how did you make money? Like, what was the commercial relationship you had with customers? Did you charge them on a SaaS kind of monthly basis, annual? Like, how did you charge for?
Yeah, our revenue model was a subscription model. It was a yearly subscription by which the law firm, and we also had accounting firms, not that many, but we had one of the largest accounting firms in the world as client. But they will pay a subscription fee per user per year.
And did they pay for that up front?
Yes, yeah. And we have some that they will pay quarterly, but for everybody it was a yearly subscription.
What did it cost to subscribe? What was the cost per user?
Kind of like to get it started, it was $40 per month per timekeeper. So about $440 a year.
And was your strategy to go for the very large law firms or mid-size, or who did you target within the legal kind of space?
That's a great question, because in legal and even in professional services, the market is pretty well divided in large, medium, and small. So our strategy was we want to democratize timekeeping for everybody. So we decided that we really do not care about the size of the organization, and we cater to small firms from 5 lawyers all the way to accounting firms with 5,000 timekeepers, or law firms with 10,000 timekeepers. So the value proposition was such that no matter what you're using, our client is actually the lawyer, in the simplicity for them. So that strategy was a complicated one, because the way that the large segment buys, it's slightly different from the small segment, and the way that you market to the big segment, it's different. So but yeah, we started out actually with the mid-market. Why? Because the sales cycles were faster. You have quicker access to the decision makers, and that allows to build a very robust customer base. And then we started getting into the very large space, which is the space where everybody wants. And for the smaller, it was a little bit more self-served. We did a lot of inbound marketing, content marketing, so they could find us in through SEO and those type of things.
Got it. So if I'm just Joe lawyer working out of my home, I would buy it online through your online channel. Is that correct? Or would I talk to a salesperson?
You needed to buy through a sales person.
Okay.
Big portion of our distribution channel, it was through direct sales. So yeah, we have some partners here and there, but the bulk of our sales was through direct sales. So we had salespeople that only sold to large law or to the large market, and we had sales reps or account executives, however you want to call it, that only sold to the small market.
How did you herd cats at law firms? So my experience selling to lawyers, which is somewhat limited, I will admit, but I did it very early in my career, and I found it really challenging because you have these big egos, all of whom think they know better, all of whom have a hack or a way around, and getting really big ego people to all agree to something is impossible in my experience. So what was your secret?
John, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I think the secret the secret was we had something that lawyers wanted. And if they wanted it, they were going to do whatever they needed to do, talk to the CFO, talk to the CIO to make it happen. But part of the success as well, it was pretty innovative, right? When we started out in 2012, the iPad just came out, right? Still, iPhone was kind of new. BlackBerry, was kind of in transition. So, I mean, they were already used to, having BlackBerries. They saw the benefit. But I think the secret sauce, it was a very simple value proposition, right? Grab your phone, put your time in. You don't need any training, and it works. So, yeah.
Got it. Okay, that's helpful. And at the same time, it has me think, how did you defend your territory? Because any three guys in the basement could come up with an app. They do it now in these hackathons where in a weekend, you can come up with an app. How did you defend against people, given the simplicity of what you had created? How did you protect it?
Yeah, I mean, we have some. I mean, we have some patent pendings in terms of the gamification, but we built up a SaaS time and compliance platform that it was hard to replicate because it kind of connected with pretty much 40 ERPs in professional services, right? And it was extremely simple. It will take us about an hour to deploy the solution. So it was it in the surface, right? It was very simple, easy to use, but I think the architecture was pretty unique. And John, I'm all for. I'm not afraid of competition, right? If you can build this, make it faster, cheaper, and better, right? And you can make the sales that we're making, right? You deserve it all. So there was but even today, there is no one competitor that has a SaaS solution like the one we built. Even John, in our prior life with eBilling Hub, we created arguably the first SaaS solution, back in 2003 when it wasn't even called SaaS. It was called, application service provider, right? Back in the day, right? And, so we had a track record of building, innovating platform. So when we sold eBilling Hub, still there was not a competitor. So, we knew the market well, right? We knew the players, and we knew what it would take to really compete one-on-one with us.
That's helpful. What was the trigger? You take me up to 2018, 2019. You had 45 employees, growing obviously very quickly from 2012 to 2019. What made you want to sell? Or I understand you weren't actually intending to sell in the beginning.
Yeah, and I think, John, you can relate to that. As entrepreneur, it's part of the plan to have a successful liquidity event at some point, right? And actually, one of the things that we kept in mind, early on, it's how we build a company that we can sell for the number that we want, right? So we knew that that was happening. So we were growing very rapidly. So we wanted to partner with a financial investor or, raise some capital to really take the company to the next level, right? Increase the growth from 50 to 75% because the market was, was prime. At that point. So, we knew that we needed to add more in sales, marketing. I didn't even have a CFO. We needed to beef up the executive team. So initially, we intended to be an exercise more for growth investment, but we knew that going with a private equity, we were going to sell probably the majority of the company, with the possibility to attract some potential strategic investors, the strategic buyers, at that point, they buy pretty much 100% of the company. So we started out the process, John. We hired an investment banker. So, the process, it was pretty intense. And, we got some LOI, LOIs from both.
Letters of intent. Yep.
Letters of intent from both strategic buyers and from financial buyers.
So many questions to begin with here. Okay, so you get these letters of intent. What would you first of all, before we go even that get into those, what did you think about? How did you think about valuation as you before you even saw the letters of intent, and you and your partners were thinking about raising some money? Did you have a sense of what a company like yours was worth in terms of a multiple of, I'm assuming it would be a multiple of revenue you'd be thinking about?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and that's a little bit of what the comment that I made from the early on. We wanted to build a company that we could sell for the highest multiple. So we really worked towards some KPIs. The first one was growth. So, we knew if we really focus on achieving these KPIs, we were going to get the multiple that we wanted, right? So the first one was growth, keeping, steady growth to be able to show investor or buyers. The second KPI was retention. Retention was extremely important to us. And, we achieved about 98% revenue retention. And we were at like a 95% logo retention, meaning that the accounts that we were losing, they were smaller, right, in the big scheme of things. And then, of course,
just to be clear,
margin.
Gabby, just for just to be clear, when you talk about 95% logo retention and 98% revenue retention, would that be on an annual basis and a monthly basis?
That was in the annual basis. Yes.
Fantastic. Good for you.
Yes. And of course, we started looking at gross profit margins, right? Which is something very important. In EBITDA, so we were lucky enough, right, to have an EBITDA over 25%. So, with those elements, probably you are familiar in SaaS with the rule of 40, right? And the rule
Describe
of 40.
the rule of 40. I forgot the rule of 40. Remind me what the rule of 40 is. It's a combination of growth and EBITDA, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. It's your year-over-year growth plus your EBITDA should be something greater than 40.
Yeah.
So in that puts you in a category where basically you can have a higher multiple. And not only that, John, but back in towards the end of 2019, the market was very bully as well, right? Private equities, they have a very healthy balance sheets, right? So, we were, pretty well positioned to have a great multiple. But in addition to that, the market was prime to pay for that as well.
Got it. And so you guys had the rule of 40, right? You had EBITDA margins 25 plus, and your growth rate was north of, yeah.
Right. And John, we also measure something that I learned. Again, we didn't have a CFO, so a lot of these we learned as we go, right? And we also learned about the magic number. In SaaS, the magic number is pretty much the relationship between how much you spend in marketing and sales, relative to the new recurrent revenue that you generate, right? So in our SaaS business, your valuation, it's based on annual recurrent revenue, ARR, or the new term is CARR, right? Which is contracted annual recurrent revenue, right? So meaning that anything that is not recurrent, right? Like implementations, consulting and all that, right? That's not something that you're getting credit for. You know what I mean? So we were very, very focusing. 99% of our revenue, it was recurrent.
Got it. Fantastic. And so given that 99% of your revenue was recurring and you reached the rule of 40, did you have a sense what range of top line revenue you thought was a reasonable valuation? Again, this is before you sort of evaluated the letters of intent.
Yeah. So we wanted to be between anywhere between 5 and 7, right?
Got it.
X annual recurrent revenue. So minimum it will be a 5, right? And with the possibility to get 7, if not 8.
And did you tell your M&A banker, your advisor, those numbers? Did you share the 5 to 7 number with them?
Yeah, we did, and
Yeah.
and of course, right. The position is we're gonna do everything to really to maximize this multiple, right? And that's their job, right? In sometimes, right? They do have private equity and our strategic buyer. They do have their own formulas and math, right? Which across that they're pretty consistent, but also what drove a higher multiple for us was that our banker really, set up kind of like a bidding war. So, which is something that we didn't put in the numbers, right? So we were able to, to get that just because we had we have offers and they were competing for the business, which was very flattering for us.
That's fantastic. There's a school of thought. When you sell a home, for example, you never want to tell your real estate agent what your bottom line is because they're going to use that against you, right? They're going to kind of whisper in the ear of the other side that, hey, he'll probably accept whatever.
Yeah.
How do you mitigate against that with a mergers and acquisitions professional? Once you throw out your bottom line being 5, how do you ensure that doesn't become the maximum you're going to get because the M&A banker talks to the other M&A banker and says, we can get this deal done if you come up to 5. Do you know what I'm asking?
Yes, absolutely. But I think the investment bankers are motivated because they get a cut of the purchasing price, right? So, they're motivated. And there are some milestones, right? There are some accelerators, right? That if they hit, they get more. So when we negotiated the agreement with our banker, we made sure that we put accelerators so they were motivated to hit that number, and they did.
Got it. Excellent. So the accelerator, so there's a flat sort of success fee that they get, but if they reach a certain threshold, a certain valuation, they get a higher percenage. So
exactly.
And is that higher? Go ahead.
And it was kind of like a stagger, right? From here, you get this, right? But if you go beyond this, you're going to get a lot more.
And is the accelerator percentage on just the incremental amount that they get or on the entire amount? Do you know what I'm asking?
No, it was just on the incremental that they will get.
Got it.
Yes.
So for the second X tranche, you get a Y.
Exactly.
Commission.
Exactly.
So take me back to the letters of intent. So you get letters of intent both from financial buyers, private equity groups, and as well as strategic buyers. What was your reaction to those?
It was incredibly flattering, John. We had less than a dozen of letters of intent. To be completely honest, in our wildest dreams, we knew that we had a good company. We knew that we did a lot of things right? Not because we knew it, because I made all the mistakes already, right?
Yeah.
And it was an extremely flattering, event that you can have so many heavy hitters bidding for your business. But but it was extremely difficult, the process to go from the initial offers to narrow it down, to a few.
Why was that so difficult?
Pretty much, there were out of the kind of like a dozen, right? There were some that they were not competitive anymore, right? So those were easy to be eliminated. But at the end, there was a handful, right? About 4 of them, which was a mixture of strategic and financial buyers. In each of those, they had an amazing value proposition, right? They had an amazing teams, and in it was hard because you don't know what you don't know, right? So you don't know how my people was gonna take the transition, right? And how they're really gonna behave after they acquire the business. But I mean, we were very, very lucky. So the few that we had at the very end, extremely professional, very genuinely interested in the business, and I knew them, and through the process, you get to know them really personal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you talk to these people pretty much every day, right? They know more of my daily life than my husband, right? and yeah, it was really hard to choose, one telling the other ones, no, and we got, like I said, a little bit of a bidding war after that, but it was extremely humbling event for us.
Good for you. Now, with the bidding war, you had multiple bidders at the table. Did you say to all 4 of the shortlist, you've got to increase your bid or you're not going to get it? Did you actually say that we've chosen company A and company B, improve their offer again? Like how was the mechanics of that working?
Yeah, actually, that part of the negotiation was handled by the head of our investment bank, right? And but yeah, so they will say we have um, he couldn't name any names, right? And even today, right? That's that's confidential, but they will say there are other bidders that are a lot higher, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you improve your offer? And it was so interesting because some immediately improved it, right? There were some others that said, no, I'm not going to play the game, right? And, I want to talk to the founder, right? I want to talk to Gabby, right? And it was interesting as a part of the negotiation because, one of the potential acquirers, it's, hey, Gabby, if we are the vendor of choice, right? Kind of like, well, you're doing sales, right? Then, right, I'm going to get you to the number that you want, right? But I'm not going to play this game. But interesting enough, right, everybody ended up playing the game, right? Increasing their bids. And but they were very consistent. I mean, it's kind of like these people talk to each other, John, because I don't know how they did it, right? That when they resubmitted an updated offer, they were pretty similar, you know. So it was even harder to choose, you know.
Do you think that the M&A professional representing you was sort of, it sounds like they were sort of feeding information to the people saying, you got to, you're going to have to increase this, you're going to have to decrease that, you're going to have to change this.
Yeah, he will give them some cues, right?
Mm-hmm.
Say, so the minimum, I mean, just to play, you need to be at least in here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even we have some that said, you know what, at that point I'm not gonna go, so I'm out, right? So we had one that was out of the the 4, so we got it down to 3, and but yeah, so he will help them to better their offers.
What was what was that call like you had with one of the acquirers that wanted to talk to Gabby? What was it like to go through that experience?
Oh my, it was terrifying, terrifying. And, because I called my banker, right? And he gives me some talking points, right? But it was terrifying because I really love that, you know, that potential acquirer, right?
Mm.
Their value proposition, the investments that they had made, right? And, you gotta play a little bit of, like a stone face kind of,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
You cannot give too much because, I mean, otherwise I could have ruined the negotiation from the banker, right? So, it's like a little bit of, this is a very hard decision. This is the hardest decision, that I ever made. We are evaluating our options. We're lucky enough to have other options that, fortunately for us, are higher than yours, right? So it will be great, if you can do anything better, right? So, but yeah, it was
What
hard.
and to be clear, that acquire did increase their offer, even though they
Yes,
said they weren't going to play. Interesting.
exactly, exactly,
Got it.
exactly.
So we'll take the "I'm not going to play that game" comment with a grain of salt.
Yes,
Uh,
yes,
got it.
yes.
So this is helpful. So in terms of the coaching, what coaching did your M&A professional give you in order to have that call with that potential acquirer? Like, did he or she say, answer this question this way, don't answer this question no matter what? Like, what sort of coaching did you get?
Yeah, that's a very good point because his main thing was you gotta be yourself, right? I cannot tell you what to do, right? You are the CEO, you are the founder, right? But if you start negotiating yourself, right, you are hindering our chances, right, to get a better deal, right? So if you want, right, let me negotiate this, right, and be very grateful, right? But he never said, hey, you gotta do this, right? It's be you, right? But stay away from kind of like a getting yourself into a rabbit hole, right? And
Mm.
he said, you know exactly when you are going into that, right? Make sure that you avoid this. So it was pretty neat, and you know,
You had these four offers, and they're starting to come up, in unison, if you will. What what was the improvement from the original offers that you received based on the kind of cat and mouse game? Like on a percentage basis, how much did you get them up over that negotiation period?
I mean, it was funny because one was almost 40%, and
Wow.
there was and the other ones that they were more level, it was 25% from
Wow.
from where they were.
From the
So
original.
it was substantial. It was
Yeah.
substantial.
Yeah. For sure. And what other
Now,
factors?
John, we knew, right? One of the bidders, right? We knew, right, that they threw a very low ball, right? And we knew that they were not serious about it, right?
Mhm.
So we knew that with this one, right? They pretty much they they have what it took to double their offer, right?
Mhm.
So they were pretty wealthy, so to speak, right?
Mhm. Mhm. And so you kept them in from the long list of a dozen down to four. You kept them in because you knew they had more to
Exactly.
give. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly how it
Yeah.
happened. They had a lot more to give.
Yeah.
So,
A lot more love to give.
absolutely, right? And they got it, right?
That's great.
So, yes.
I love it. I love it. So, what other factors did you look at as you evaluated these offers? Clearly, price was one. What were the other things that made an offer either more attractive to you or less attractive?
Oh my goodness, that's the hardest question. So, because every of the offers, uh, they had so much positives, right? And but again, right, it was a big difference between going strategic or going with a financial, private equity, right?
Why? What was the difference between them?
Well, because with a strategic, I knew that my involvement was going to be limited after the purchase, right? So basically, right, we had agreed, right, preliminary, that my role was going to be more as a strategic consultant, right? Meaning that I was not going to be running the company and making the decisions, right? Whereas with the other offers on the financial, buyers, they were gonna purchase a portion, a majority of the business, but still, I will retain, a percentage. And the idea was I was gonna continue to run the companies, right? One, I will continue to run on the helmet. The other one, they were gonna put, a new CEO or something like that, which was fine, right? So anything that will take. So I mean, they were very different, right? And the difficulty came doing a soul search of what I wanted to do with my life, right? Did I wanted to uh, kind of like take all the chips off the table, right, and cash out, or was my heart, building the business, growing the business. So, on the financial, with a financial buyer, so, it could be sold to an strategic later on, right? And I didn't know, John, to be honest, right? Am I ready to cash out, right? And, uh, and on the other hand, do I want to really keep the pressure going, right? And not only that, increasing. So, I had an executive coach. He really helped me a lot, right? And the decision was really based on facts, right? And numbers. I kind of like worked really hard to put the passion away, and we decided to go with a strategic buyer. So we sold 100% of the company.
What questions did your executive coach ask you in order to help you determine whether you wanted to cash out or or not?
Yeah, I remember he saying, right, Gabby, do you understand that if you go with a financial buyer, you're not in majority anymore, right? You are not going to be the majority, right? You can be the CEO, but I mean, you have a board to report right now. Do you understand that, right? And because we didn't have any investors before, right? I never had a board, right? Yeah, we had an advisory board, right? But pretty much I will call all the shots, right? So for me, it said, can I thrive in that environment, you know? And in the second part was yes, I am tired, right? I've been doing this for 20 years, right? Just keep running, right? To continue growing 50, 75%, right? So, I don't know. I doubted myself and, should I take a break? And that was kind of like how he coached me to really get to the bottom of my soul, right? To make a decision. But again, even though when I made the decision, I was pretty torn apart.
Did you think about what you would do after? I mean, you're obviously a young person, clearly not ready to retire. I hope you're not ready to retire. Like, did you think about what you wanted to do after the fact?
I did, but I couldn't find an answer, John. I couldn't. And one of the things that I realized, it's that was my identity. That's what I thought who I was, right? I was a CEO, an entrepreneur, right? And that's what people knew me for, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was so into my identity, um, and that for me, going this way, I was going to lose my identity because, John, I couldn't see beyond, right, the sale, basically, especially, with a strategic buyer, right? And but I knew, right, that I was giving options to myself, right? So a little bit of I don't know what is that thing after the sale, but what I know, it's now I can slow down a little bit, and take the time to really figure out, what is the next thing that I wanted to do. Still, I'm in that search, right? I'm getting closer, but yeah, it's a lot of understanding, and who you are, right? Giving up some of your identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, I mean, we were fortunate enough, John, that if we don't, right, we don't have to do this again, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and you're very fortunate to have options that you never imagined before, because you're so busy, right, making the number, right, making the quarter, right, that you don't know anything else, basically.
Like, what are some of the? I mean, we're recording this in April 2020, where we were all stuck in our homes and COVID land. What is on the horizon for you? Like, as you think about the possibilities now with the economic success that you've enjoyed, like, what are some of the, like the old game shows where you had like door number 1, door number 2, door number 3, like, what are the 3 doors that you're thinking about?
Yeah, I want to give back.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I didn't get here by myself, right? There was a myriad of coaches, right? And incredible people that, fuel and help me to succeed. And one of the things that I want to, and that I have started, it's, working with companies, right? Or working with the startups that are minority owned, right? As a female entrepreneur in technology, it was really hard, John. So if there is any way, right? And not only that, I'm a female in tech, right? I'm a minority, right? I'm from
Mm-hmm.
South America, I'm Latina, whatever, right? So, part of my heart, it's, I got a lot from the system, the people. So, I'm figuring out some ways how to structure some sort of organization that can help me, pass these lessons, right? And learn from them, and hopefully help them to succeed as well.
Makes sense. Did you buy yourself a trophy? Tell me you bought yourself something. You must have done something to celebrate this
My
amazing win.
goodness. John, our trophy was going away and travel for, several months, right?
Fantastic. So were you able to do that before COVID?
No.
Oh,
No.
no. Oh, that's
No.
terrible.
And then, right? And then, so we were going away the same week when all this thing started. And yes, so I'm still waiting for that moment,
A rain
right?
check. Yeah, you must take a rain
Yes.
check. Where are you going to
So-
go? What's on your list of?
So, well, the first thing, right, we were gonna go to like Asia, Thailand, Cambodia, and all
Mhm.
that, right?
Great.
But everything started, around China, so we didn't.
Sure.
And then, we have a lot of family in Spain, so we were gonna go to Spain and travel around Europe, and our plan is to leave. I have 2 teenage boys, so it's leave some part here, some part in Spain, basically. So the trophy is should we buy something in Spain, right?
Fantastic.
But all of that is on hold up until whenever. So
How is the emotional? How has your emotional state been since you sold in, I think, November 2019? Was it?
we sold in December.
December
2019.
2019. Okay, and we're recording this in April 2020, so it's been about 4 months. How would you describe the emotions that you've gone through over that 4 months?
The thing is, I mean, the coronavirus have changed a lot, right? We didn't plan for this, right? So even the emotions have been shaped to adapt to this new reality, right? So, but kind of like right after the transaction, I was still pretty active in the transition, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't hit home as hard, right? And right when I was ready to start, kind of like separating a little bit more of the business, and I started doing some things that were more enjoyable, right?
Mm-hmm.
That the coronavirus hit. So yeah, I think on the emotional side, there has been a lot of unplanned events, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we needed to readjust, basically.
It's got to feel weird to, you work your whole life to get to have this incredible success. You enjoy this amazing liquidity event. You have all this money and nowhere to spend it. I mean, there's only so many boxes you can have for Amazon shipping to your house.
Right.
There's only
and
so much crap you can buy for your house.
Right?
Right. You're trying, right. You don't want to have, you
Right.
don't want to have all these. So you're like,
yeah,
I got all this time, and I can't spend it. I can't go do anything. That's got to feel weird.
Yes, but one of the things that I mean, I wanted to be very conscious about is this shouldn't change much, who we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
What it changed that now we have a lot of options, right? And we can do things in our terms and in our time. But even John, I have a 18-year-old, and I have a 16. Of course, they know the transaction, but they don't know details, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they can probably do some math or whatever, right? But we try to make sure that doesn't change much, who we are, right? And and that they still need to work hard for for themselves,
Good for you. Good for you. Well, it's been a tremendous pleasure for me to hear your story, and I wish you all the best. I hope the travel restrictions get released and you can go travel the world as you deserve. Gabby, what's the best way if people want to? I don't know if you accept LinkedIn connections, for example, or if a social media account you want to point to, or a website. Where could people reach out to you if they wanted to say hi?
I think LinkedIn is the best.
Okay.
I have an open profile, and I love to get new connections, learn from people. Yes.
And you're Gabby Isturiz on. It's Gabby or not Gabrielle?
No, it's Gabriela. It's Gabriela Isturiz. But there are not many of that, right?
You're not too hard to track down on social media. All right. Well, we'll put that in the show notes as well. This was a tremendous pleasure for me. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Thank you, John. Take care. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Built to Sell Radio with John Warrillow. For complete show notes with links to additional resources, visit builttosell.com/blog. John is the founder of the Value Builder System. To find out how to improve the value of your business by 71%, visit valuebuildersystem.com. John is also the author of Built to Sell, Creating a Business That Can Thrive Without You, and The Automatic Customer, Creating a Subscription Business in Any Industry. Connect with John at facebook.com/built-to-sell or on Twitter at John Warrillow, WARRILLOW. Thanks for listening.